Good evening, friends, and welcome to Mirror Valley.
Coming up on tonight's episode, the eternal question, are we alone in the universe, was answered with a resounding no as the alien spacecraft descended from the sky.
Human nature is a mysterious thing. Are people innately selfish? Or is there some sort of ingrained drive that encourages us to act in the best interests of our fellow human beings? Tonight, we find out what happens when people are convinced that to live the good life, some very uncomfortable sacrifices must be made. The time is at hand once more. Turn off the lights. Lock your doors and join me as we take a look at another twisted reflection.
The other half. I remember the day the visitors arrived as if it was yesterday. How could I not? It was the most significant day for human beings on this planet since civilization first began. The eternal question, are we alone in the universe, was answered with a resounding no as the alien spacecraft descended from the sky. At first, there was panic, and governments had the predictable reaction. They went on high alert and prepared for war against an unknown invading force. But everything changed when the first ship touched down on terra firma, and a door opened up, and the first alien life form humankind had ever seen emerged from the ship, arms open and empty, and declared to the news cameras, military officials, and onlookers alike, "We come in peace." The aliens immediately allowed themselves to be whisked away by the authorities, and for the first week or so, though speculation was rampant on news and social media, we heard nothing about our strange visitors, either from them or from the government, which presumably held them captive. Then, 1 week to the day after the first craft had landed, rumors began to circulate that the authorities were preparing a press conference to update the anxious public about our unprecedented situation, and that perhaps they would have the aliens in attendance. We were not disappointed. The historic address aired on televisions and radio the world over the following afternoon, when the alien leader was allowed to speak directly to us all for the very first time. He told us they had watched us from afar for centuries, interested in our growth and development as our own technology allowed us to reach out toward the stars. They came to our planet with a warning, and with a message of hope. According to the visitors, Earth was currently heading toward cataclysm, complete societal decline. According to the aliens' own models, if current trends continued, Earth would be rendered unsuitable for human life within the next 200 years. But all was not doom and gloom. Our visitors had come to help, to save us from our planet's demise. They announced that they had a plan to put us on a new path, one that would lead to joy, prosperity, and advancement the likes of which none of us had ever seen. They had convinced our leaders of the necessity of their plan and would begin immediately, sending emissaries out to meet with every community across the globe and begin instructing us all on what would be required of us to stave off doom and build a better future for us all. The meetings were arranged almost immediately. They were by invitation only. Every member of society was assigned a group to work, and the meeting attendance was strictly monitored. Once the first session began, we all understood why. The aliens told us we had more to learn than what we'd seen on air. The truth, they told us, is that the Earth was indeed headed for a doomed future, but not for the reasons any of us assumed. It was our people, they said. Through their study of human beings, the aliens had located a specific area of the brain, only active in about half of the population. It was this area that was responsible for the selfish, warlike, and venal behavior that had plagued mankind since recorded history. And if the human race and Earth were to flourish, it would have to be eliminated. They deemed those of us without this defect the green group, and the others, the red. Thinking back now, I'm ashamed at how easy it was to convince us, all of us, that the other half of the population had to go. How quickly we got on board with wiping out almost half of the planet in service of saving the world for our children and grandchildren. I would like to think they used some sort of alien technology or mind control, that on our own we could have never been convinced to turn so completely upon our fellow man, our friends and neighbors. That's what I'd like to think, but I'm not so sure.
We will return to our story in just a moment. But first...
Enjoying the show? Please help us out and like this video, and subscribe to the Mirror Valley YouTube channel.
And now, the conclusion of tonight's story.
I would like to think they used some sort of alien technology or mind control, that on our own we could have never been convinced to turn so completely upon our fellow man, our friends and neighbors. That's what I'd like to think, but I'm not so sure. So day by day, week by week, in our respective groups, always maintaining the secrecy the aliens insisted was so crucial to the process, we began to train to eliminate the Reds, the others. The aliens had separated off the others into groups as well, giving them innocuous programs on inclusivity, tolerance, and community spirit, so as to eliminate any suspicion about what might be going on with the other groups they were not a part of. As far as they knew, the Reds and Greens were all getting similar training. And so it continued, until the fateful day that our new visitors had deemed Day Zero, the day when the other half would be eliminated, a distasteful and undesirable task to be certain, but a necessary sacrifice to make the world a better place. The night before, I couldn't sleep, despite all the time I'd spent in my training, despite how thoroughly they'd convinced us of the necessity of the plan. I woke up that night as if from a waking dream, the reality of what we planned to do hitting home for me for the very first time. It was still night, a few hours before dawn broke and the Greens had their final meeting before executing the plan. So I decided to go for a walk into the adjoining neighborhoods, ones I knew to be almost entirely populated by Reds. I wanted to walk their streets, look at their homes, feel their presence one last time, before it was wiped away. As I walked the streets in silence, a glowing window in a large house up ahead caught my attention, the only light on at such a time. As I approached, I could see the silhouettes of a large group of people inside. My curiosity piqued. I carefully approached and listened. What I heard sent me reeling. Carefully peering inside, I noticed the guns, the tactical gear, the maps, just like the ones they had given us. Suddenly, I recalled something I'd read long ago about invading forces in ancient Greece who would infiltrate a society from within and manipulate them into warring amongst themselves. By the time the dust settled, the conquering army only had to come in and clean up the enemy soldiers that remained. They got their enemies to eliminate themselves. I stood in shock and listened, recalling all of our training, all of the aliens' insistence that we were the chosen half and that the other half must perish, that today was the day. They were telling the other group the exact same thing.
And so our time together comes to an end once more. Our paths will cross again soon. Until then, keep your eyes open, your mind sharp, and remember, what you see in the mirror is not always what it appears to be. Until next time, good night, friends.